Hello friends and welcome to the England/British Iceberg. This was made by user illscale9163. My name is Paul and I'll be your narrator today. You already know how an iceberg goes, so let's dive in. World War II. During World War II, the United Kingdom declared war on Germany on September 3rd, 1939, after Hitler invaded Poland. Britain endured the Blitz from 1940 to 1941, when Nazi Germany bombed cities like London, killing thousands and testing civilian morale. The UK played a key role in resisting Axis powers, through alliances, military campaigns, and intelligence efforts, like the breaking of the Enigma Code. Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom during most of World War II, known for his powerful speeches and unyielding leadership. He became Prime Minister in May 1940, just as Nazi Germany was rapidly advancing through Europe. Churchill inspired the British people during dark times, like the Blitz, famously declaring, "We shall never surrender." After the war, he lost the 1945 election, but returned as Prime Minister from 1951 to 1955, and remains one of Britain's most iconic leaders. 1066. The year 1066 is one of the most famous in English history, marking the Norman conquest of England. After the death of King Edward the Confessor, a struggle for the throne led to the Battle of Hastings, where William, Duke of Normandy, defeated King Harold II on October 14th. Harold was killed in battle, and William became William the Conqueror, the first Norman king of England. The Beatles. The Beatles were a British rock band from Liverpool, formed in 1960, and are widely regarded as the most influential band in music history. The group, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, rose to global fame in the 1960s during the cultural phenomenon known as Beatlemania. Their groundbreaking albums like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and Abbey Road revolutionized music with innovative songwriting and studio techniques. The Royal Family. The British royal family is the ruling monarchy of the United Kingdom, currently headed by King Charles III, who succeeded Queen Elizabeth II after her death in 2022. The family carries out ceremonial, diplomatic, and charitable duties, and is a symbol of national tradition and continuity. Members of the royal family include figures like Queen Camilla, Prince William, Princess Catherine, and their children, who are in line to the throne. Battle of Hastings. The Battle of Hastings took place on October 14, 1066, and was a turning point in English history. It was fought between the Anglo-Saxon King Harold II and William, Duke of Normandy, who claimed the English throne. Harold was killed in battle, famously said to be shot in the eye with an arrow, and William emerged victorious. Henry VIII. Henry VIII was King of England from 1509 to 1547 and is best known for having 6 wives and breaking away from the Catholic Church. When the Pope refused to annul his first marriage to Catherine of Aragon, Henry created the Church of England, beginning the English Reformation. His reign was marked by major political and religious changes, as well as the execution of 2 of his wives, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard. Alfred the Great. Alfred the Great was King of Wessex from 871 to 899, and is the only English monarch to be called the Great. He is best known for defending his kingdom against Viking invasions and laying the foundations for a unified England. Alfred also promoted education, legal reform, and the use of English in writing, helping to preserve Anglo-Saxon culture. The Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution was a major period of change that began in Britain in the late 1700s, transforming it from a farming society into an industrial powerhouse. It saw the rise of factories, steam engines, and mass production, especially in industries like textiles, iron, and coal mining. Cities grew rapidly as people moved from the countryside for work, leading to both economic growth and harsh working and living conditions. Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is a fictional detective created by British author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in 1887. Known for his brilliant mind, keen observation, and logical reasoning, Holmes solves complex crimes with the help of his loyal friend, Dr. John Watson. He famously lives at 221B Baker Street in London and appears in 4 novels and 56 short stories. Battle of Britain. The Battle of Britain was a major air campaign fought in 1940 during World War II between the Royal Air Force and Nazi Germany's Luftwaffe. It was the first major military campaign fought entirely by air forces, with Germany aiming to gain air superiority to prepare for an invasion of Britain. Despite being outnumbered, the RAF successfully defended the skies thanks to radar, skilled pilots, and strong public morale. Battle of Agincourt. The Battle of Agincourt took place on October 25th, 1415, during the 100 Years' War between England and France. Led by King Henry V, the vastly outnumbered English army defeated a much larger French force using clever tactics and the powerful English longbow. The battle became legendary for its unexpected victory and heavy French losses. Elizabeth I. Elizabeth I was Queen of England from 1558 to 1603 and is one of the most famous and influential monarchs in British history. The daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, she ruled during a golden age known as the Elizabethan era, marked by exploration, cultural growth, and the works of William Shakespeare. She skillfully navigated religious tensions, avoided marriage to keep power, and led England to victory against the Spanish Armada in 1588. Falklands War. The Falklands War was a conflict between Britain and Argentina in 1982 over the Falkland Islands, a British territory in the South Atlantic. Argentina invaded the islands in April, claiming sovereignty, but Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher sent a naval task force to retake them. After intense fighting on land, sea and air, British forces regained control in June 1982. The war lasted 10 weeks, resulted in over 900 deaths, and reaffirmed British control, though Argentina still claims the islands today. Magna Carta. The Magna Carta, signed in 1215 by King John, was a historic document that limited royal power and established that the king was subject to the law, kind of like the British version of the Declaration of Independence. Forced by rebellious barons, it guaranteed certain rights such as protection from illegal imprisonment and access to fair trials. Though many of its clauses were later removed or altered, it laid the foundation for modern democracy and constitutional law. War of the Roses. The War of the Roses was a series of civil wars in England between 1455 and 1487, fought between the rival houses of Lancaster, Red Rose, and York, White Rose, over control of the throne. The conflict led to years of political instability, battles, and shifting alliances among the English nobility. It ended with the rise of Henry Tudor, Henry VII, who defeated Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth Field and united the two houses by marrying Elizabeth York.
The Battle of Waterloo. The Battle of Waterloo took place on June 18, 1815 in Belgium and marked the final defeat of Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon's French army was defeated by a coalition of forces led by the Arthur Wesley of Wellington and Gebhard von Blücher. The battle ended Napoleon's rule as Emperor of the French and his return from exile during the 100 Days. After his defeat, Napoleon was exiled to St. Helena and Europe entered a period of relative peace. The Six Wives. Henry VIII had 6 wives, and their fates are famously remembered with the rhyme, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. Here are his wives in order. Catherine of Aragon, divorced. Anne Boleyn, beheaded. Jane Seymour, died after childbirth. Anne Cleves, divorced after a brief marriage. Catherine Howard, beheaded for adultery. Catherine Parr, survived and outlived Henry.
Battle of Stamford Bridge. The Battle of Stamford Bridge took place on September 25, 1066 near York, England, between King Harold Godwinson of England and the invading Norwegian force led by King Harold Hardrada and Harold's brother Tostig. The English army won a decisive victory, effectively ending Viking attempts to conquer England. However, just 3 weeks later, Harold had to march south to face another invasion by William of Normandy at the Battle of Hastings. Henry V. Henry V was King of England from 1413 to 1422 and is best known for his military success during the 100 Years' War, especially at the Battle of Agincourt in 1415. Despite being outnumbered, his forces defeated the French using clever tactics and the powerful longbow. Henry's victory made him a national hero and led to the Treaty of Troyes, which recognised him as heir to the French throne. He died young in 1422, but his legacy lived on through Shakespeare's famous play Henry V and his reputation as one of England's greatest warrior kings. 1707. The year 1707 is most significant for the Act of Union, which united the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of Scotland into a single country, the Kingdom of Great Britain. This act created a unified parliament at Westminster and merged the two nations' political systems, though Scotland retained its separate legal and educational institutions. The Civil War. The English Civil War took place between 1642 and 1651. Fought between the supporters of King Charles I and the parliamentarians led by figures like Oliver Cromwell. The conflict was driven by disputes over the king's power, taxation, religion, and the role of parliament. The war ended with a parliamentarian victory, the execution of Charles I in 1649, and the temporary abolition of the monarchy, leading to a republic called the Commonwealth of England. The monarchy was eventually restored in 1660 with Charles II, the 100 Years' War. The 100 Years' War was a series of conflicts fought between England and France from 1337 to 1453, lasting 116 years. It began over disputes about the rightful heir to the French throne, with English kings claiming French territory and royal titles. Key events included famous battles like Agincourt, the rise of national identities, and the leadership of Joan of Arc, who inspired the French to turn the tide. The war ended with France reclaiming most of its territory and England losing nearly all its lands on the continent except Calais. 1801. The year 1801 is significant for the creation of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland through the Act of Union 1800, which came into effect on January 1st, 1801. This united the Kingdom of Great Britain, itself formed in 1707, and the Kingdom of Ireland into a single political entity with one parliament at Westminster. The new flag, known as the Union Jack, combined the crosses of England, Scotland and Ireland.
Battle of Trafalgar. The Battle of Trafalgar took place on October 21st, 1805, during the Napoleonic Wars, and was a major naval battle between the British Royal Navy and the combined fleets of France and Spain. It was fought off the coast of Cape Trafalgar, near Spain, and led to a decisive British victory under the command of Admiral Horatio Nelson. Nelson was killed during the battle, but his tactics destroyed much of the enemy fleet and ensured British naval dominance for over a century. Battle of the Somme. The Battle of the Somme was one of the largest and bloodiest battles of World War I, fought between July 1st and November 18th, 1916. It took place in northern France and involved British and French forces trying to break through German lines. On the first day alone, the British suffered over 57,000 casualties, making it the deadliest day in British military history.
The Great Heathen. The Great Heathen Army was a massive Viking force that invaded Anglo-Saxon England in 865 AD, made up of warriors from Denmark, Norway and possibly Sweden. Led by legendary figures like Ivar the Boneless, Halfdan and Uber, the army aimed not just to raid but to conquer and settle in England. It overran several kingdoms including Northumbria and East Anglia and came close to dominating all of England. However, King Alfred the Great of Wessex successfully resisted and eventually pushed the Vikings back. Anglo-Saxon. The Anglo-Saxons were a group of tribes from Germany, Denmark and the Netherlands who settled in England after the fall of Roman Britain, starting around the 5th century. They formed several kingdoms like Wessex, Mercia and Northumbria and laid the foundations of the English language, culture and law. The period saw the spread of Christianity, rich artistic and literary achievements like Beowulf, and constant battles with Vikings. Battle of Edington. The Battle of Edington took place in 878 AD between the forces of King Alfred the Great of Wessex and the Great Heathen Army, led by the Viking chief Guthrum. Fought near present-day Edington in Wiltshire, it was a decisive victory for Alfred, halting the Viking advance into southern England. After the battle, Guthrum agreed to convert to Christianity and signed the Treaty of Wedmore, leading to a division of England between Wessex and the Viking-controlled Danelaw. King Canute. King Canute was a Viking king who ruled over England, Denmark and Norway, often called the North Sea Empire, in the early 11th century. He became King of England in 1016 after defeating King Edmund Ironside and ruled until his death in 1035. Canute was a powerful and effective ruler who maintained peace, respected English laws and customs, and helped strengthen the English Church. He is famously and wrongly remembered for a story where he tried to command the sea to stop, meant to show the limits of a king's power. Domesday Book. The Domesday Book was a great survey of England completed in 1086 by order of William the Conqueror after his victory in the Norman conquest of 1066. It recorded detailed information about land ownership, resources, population and taxes in nearly every town and village in England. The purpose was to assess the wealth of the kingdom so William could effectively tax his new subjects and control the land. Black Knight. The Black Knight is a legendary figure in medieval literature and folklore, often portrayed as a mysterious or masked knight dressed in black armour. He appears in various Arthurian legends, sometimes as a villain, rival, or testing opponent to knights like Sir Lancelot or Sir Gawain. The Black Knight often symbolises secrecy, danger, or hidden identity, and is sometimes later revealed to be a noble or wronged character in disguise.
The Battle of Fulford. The Battle of Fulford took place on 21st September 1066 near York, and was fought between the Vikings, led by Harold Hardrada and Tostig Godwinson, and the English Earls Edwin of Mercia and Morcar of Northumbria. The Vikings won a decisive victory, defeating the Anglo-Saxon forces and gaining control of York. However, just days later, King Harold Godwinson marched north and defeated the Viking army at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. These back-to-back battles exhausted Harold's army, leaving them vulnerable for the Battle of Hastings a few weeks later. Richard Trevithick. Richard Trevithick was a pioneering British engineer and inventor, best known for building the first full-scale working steam locomotive. Born in 1771 in Cornwall, he was a key figure in the early Industrial Revolution. In 1804, his steam-powered vehicle, called the Penydarren locomotive, successfully hauled iron and passengers along a railway in Wales, an important milestone in railway history. Baron Rebellion. The Barons' Rebellion, also known as the First Barons' War, took place in 1215 to 1217 in England, and was a civil war between rebellious noble barons and King John. The barons were angry about heavy taxation, military failures, and the king's abuse of power, leading them to force John to agree to the Magna Carta in June 1215. However, when John refused to honour the agreement, the rebellion resumed and the barons invited Prince Louis of France to take the English throne. The war ended after King John's death in 1216, and the defeat of Louis's forces, with the Magna Carta reissued under the new king, Henry III. King Athelstan. King Athelstan was the first king of a unified England, ruling from 924 to 939 AD. He was the grandson of Alfred the Great, and expanded his rule beyond Wessex and Mercia to include Northumbria, effectively uniting the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. Athelstan is known for his military victories, especially the Battle of Brunanburh in 937, where he defeated a powerful alliance of Scots, Vikings and others, securing his kingdom. William I, also known as William the Conqueror, died in 1087 after a riding accident in Normandy. His funeral was held at the Abbey of Saint Etienne in Caen, France, which he had founded years earlier. However, the ceremony was marked by chaos and embarrassment. To make matters worse, during the service, a local man interrupted and claimed the land the church was built on had been stolen by William. He demanded it be returned before the burial could proceed. Queen Matilda,
Queen Matilda of Flanders was the wife of William the Conqueror and became Queen Consort of England in 1066 after the Norman Conquest. She was highly educated, politically astute, and acted as regent in Normandy while William was in England. Matilda supported the church and was admired for her leadership, piety, and strong character. William II's death. William II of England, also known as William Rufus, died on August 2nd, 1100 in a mysterious hunting accident in the New Forest. He was struck in the chest by an arrow, supposedly fired by nobleman Walter Tyrrell, but the exact circumstances remain unclear. Some believe it was a genuine accident, while others suspect assassination, possibly linked to political rivalries or even his younger brother Henry, who quickly seized the throne as King Henry I, the last English king to die in battle. The last English king to die in battle was King Richard III, who was killed at the Battle of Bosworth Field on August 22nd, 1485. He was defeated by the forces of Henry Tudor, who became King Henry VII, marking the end of the Wars of the Roses and the Plantagenet dynasty. Richard's death made him the last English monarch to die on the battlefield. His remains were famously rediscovered under a parking lot in Leicester in 2012 and reburied with honour in 2015.
The Battle of Brunanburh. The Battle of Brunanburh took place in 937 AD and was one of the most important battles in early English history. It was fought between King Athelstan of England against a powerful alliance of Vikings, Scots and Welsh, led by Olaf Guthfrithson, Constantine II of Scotland and Owain of Strathclyde. Athelstan's victory secured the unification of England and confirmed him as the dominant ruler of the British Isles. 927. The year 927 AD is considered a major turning point in English history, as it marks the unification of England under King Athelstan. After defeating the last Viking kingdom of York, Athelstan brought all the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria and others, under one rule for the first time. He was recognised as King of the English by other rulers in Britain, including the kings of Scotland and Wales, who submitted to his authority. King Stephen. King Stephen, or Stephen Blois, reigned as King of England from 1135 to 1154, following the death of his uncle, King Henry I. His rule was marked by a brutal civil war known as the Anarchy, as he fought against Empress Matilda, Henry I's daughter, who had been promised the throne. The kingdom fell into chaos, with years of shifting loyalties, lawlessness, and battles between rival nobles. King Louis. King Louis was King of England and France from 1223 to 1226, and notably played a key role in English history during the First Barons' War. In 1216, he was invited by English rebel barons to invade England and claim the throne from King John, who had broken promises tied to the Magna Carta. Louis landed in England, gained control of London, and was proclaimed, but never crowned, King of England, ruling in opposition for about a year. Pet bear. King Henry III received a polar bear as a gift from King Haakon IV of Norway in 1252. The bear was kept in the Tower of London, which housed the royal menagerie of exotic animals. It was allowed to swim and hunt for fish in the River Thames, while kept on a chain for safety. 9-Day Queen. The 9 Days Queen refers to Lady Jane Grey, who was proclaimed Queen of England on July 10, 1553, but ruled for only 9 days before being overthrown. She was the great-granddaughter of Henry VII and was placed on the throne by powerful nobles, including John Northumberland, to prevent the Catholic Mary Tudor from becoming queen. However, Mary quickly gained public and political support, deposed Jane on July 19th, and later had her executed in 1554 for treason. Jane was just 16 or 17 years old. Anglo-Saxon slavery. Anglo-Saxon slavery was a common part of society in early medieval England, where slaves, called thralls or thos, made up a significant part of the population. People became slaves through war, debt, crime, or being born into slavery, and they could be bought, sold, or gifted like property. Slaves performed hard labour in homes, farms, and even churches, though some could earn or be granted their freedom. the Anarchy.
The Anarchy was a period of civil war and chaos in England from 1135 to 1153, caused by a succession crisis after the death of King Henry I. Although Henry had named his daughter Empress Matilda as his heir, his cousin Stephen Blois seized the throne, sparking a violent struggle for control. England was torn between supporters of Stephen and Matilda, leading to lawlessness, shifting loyalties, and the breakdown of royal authority. Edgar Atheling. Edgar Atheling was the last male member of the Anglo-Saxon royal family and was briefly proclaimed King of England in 1066 after the death of King Harold II at the Battle of Hastings. However, he was never crowned, as William the Conqueror quickly took control of England. Edgar submitted to William and lived much of his life in exile, rebellion, and diplomacy, including fighting in Scotland and going on crusade. The Great Dying. The Great Dying theory refers to the massive depopulation of indigenous peoples in the Americas after European contact, beginning in the late 15th and early 16th centuries. Diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza, brought by Europeans, including English, decimated native populations who had no immunity. Some historians estimate that up to 90% of indigenous people in some regions died within decades, making it one of the deadliest pandemics in human history. John Franklin. Sir John Franklin was a British Royal Navy officer and explorer best known for leading a doomed Arctic expedition in 1845 to find the Northwest Passage. He and his 128-man crew aboard the ships HMS Erebus and HMS Terror became trapped in ice near King William Island in present-day Canada. All crew members eventually perished, and later investigations revealed starvation, scurvy, and possible cannibalism. Porton Down. And now for the bottom of the iceberg. Porton Down is a top-secret UK government research facility located in Wiltshire, established in 1916 to study chemical warfare during World War I. Over the decades, it has conducted experiments on chemical and biological weapons, including controversial tests on both animals and humans. The site is still active today, focusing on defence and biodefence research, including countermeasures to emerging threats. And that was the end of the England-British iceberg. It was a lot. Thanks for watching. My name is Paul, and signing off. Peace.